Hey, and welcome to this next edition of the Maza's Musings podcast. Today, I am joined by Eileen, and we do a very special anniversary edition. Eileen and I are celebrating our 13th anniversary, so we take some time to talk about some of our favorite fictional couples, and then we dive into Maza's Mickey Minute, which ended up being Maza's Mickey Many Minutes, to talk about some Disney topics. I have the Magic Mickey Years. And we finish it off with a little bit of talk about something that we connected on long before we went down the Disney rabbit hole, so to speak. It's a fun episode. It went pretty long, but I think that you'll enjoy it because we had a lot of fun doing it. Before we get into it, I want to thank everybody for listening and ask you again to help us grow. Share us on social media. It's the Maza's Musings Podcast on Facebook. We're also at Maza's Musings Pod on Instagram. There's the website, mazasmusings.wordpress.com. And in addition to that, we would love it if you gave us a rating or a review, or however it works on whatever service you use to get your podcasts. Ratings and reviews help bump us up in the listings so that it's easier for people to find us, and so we can share the content and the fun with more people. And as always, feel free to reach out. The website has contact information, or you can always reach out directly at mazasmusings@gmail.com. Or if you want to connect via the social media outlets, those are open to you as well. And now that that's out of the way, let's get to the fun part. And here we go.
All of my dreams seem to fall by the side, like a discarded thought. Oh, the days fade in light, but I know if I could just see you tonight forever. At times we may fall like we all tend to do, but I'll reach out and find that I've run into you. Your strength is the power that carried me through forever.
All right, well, I am here with Eileen, and of course, this is a very special week for us. We celebrated our 13th anniversary yesterday. We're recording this on, it's Wednesday, right?
Yes.
It's been a mixed up week, but we are recording this on Wednesday, June 26th. Our 13th wedding anniversary was yesterday, the 25th. So, happy anniversary, Eileen, once again.
You too.
So we decided that we were going to kick off this podcast with a little bit something different. Most of the time we spend a lot of it talking about Disney and different Disney topics, but this time we decided that we were going to spend some time talking about what some of our favorite fictitious couples would be. Now, when I first pitched this idea, I said pop culture couples, but Eileen pointed out that that could include real couples, and so we decided that it would be more fun if we kept this to in a fictional lens.
So we're looking more at TV show couples and things
Movie
like that.
couples,
Movies,
yeah.
TV shows that, might be real in my mind, but not in real life.
All right, so did you want to get started with your list?
No, you go first.
Me first? Okay, so the first one I feel like is an obvious one, and it's Mickey and Minnie. They're the classic couple, and they've been doing it forever at this point. I mean, I don't think that there's a more solid relationship out there.
I mean, okay, I can see your point. Absolutely Mickey and Minnie. I wasn't going in that direction when I came up with them, because when we originally talked about it, we were brainstorming TV couples. So all three of my couples are coming from TV shows. But I do like Mickey and Minnie.
See, I went fictional, so that includes all manner of fiction, so...
I know, but when we first started, and when I've been stressing about coming up with my favorite couples, even though I knew them within 30 seconds of you telling me this. But I was focused on that TV, so mine are from some TV shows.
Okay, well, if you happen to pull an audible knowing that, that there's well, it hasn't been a shift in the rules, but a better understanding of the rules, feel free to, to call an audible.
I don't know, that's too much pressure.
All right, how about you? What was your first?
So my first one is Corey and Topanga from Boy Meets World. That was the very first one that popped into my head. I currently am rewatching Boy Meets World while I'm working out in the basement. So that does, they were front and center in my mind. But I think they were probably the first, TV couple that, made an impression on me way back in the days of TGI Fridays and everything like that.
TGI Fridays?
That's
a restaurant.
What was it?
The TGIF lineup.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So my next couple, I feel like mine are going to be, or at least I thought the first one would be really obvious, and that caught you off guard. So the second one, I feel like would also be obvious for me, but may also catch you off guard, is Han Solo and Princess Leia.
I knew you were going to say that as soon as you said I think it would be obvious, but it might catch you off guard. So, not to, interrupt, but as soon as you started talking and I realized that we weren't focused on just TV couples, I knew who you were going to say. So
this is I love this couple because on top of everything else, they're always challenging each other, but they still always kind of they see each other as equals. They're always on equal footing, so it's not like one considers themselves higher or better than the other one, even though one is a scoundrel and the other one was a princess and then later a general.
Oh, so us.
Yes, exactly. It's
no,
very
I'm not
reflective.
a general.
It's very reflective of.
That's not true.
But and also, I gave a lot of thought to this because as the story arc of those two characters continued, they did, obviously, The Force Awakens shows that they had split, but. It's one of those things where it was clear that the love that they had for each other was still there from the moment that they saw each other again. And also, it was clear that Han was still willing to do anything for Leia because the last thing that Leia asked him to do was something that he didn't think was possible, and that was bring their son home. And so something that he didn't think was ever going to happen was the last thing that he was trying to do for Leia, because of his love and affection for her and for his son too. But, I don't think that without Leia making that request, any of that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a fair one. And I think you said, yes, they did split, but it was obvious they still cared for each other. And we don't know all the details behind their split, but,
having your son turn evil.
Right, Ben turning evil might have contributed to that, and they might have just had to in order to continue living. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I also like their story because it is very much... I don't want to say similar to ours, but in the sense that maybe some convincing that hey, I'm a good guy, and it maybe took a little bit of time to have her come around to that.
Okay, I just hope that you don't get killed on a bridge by our child.
Me too. Me too.
So yeah, let's end the similarities there.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'm back on TV, and I think my second one is Jim and Pam from The Office. But, like, Jim and Pam before they got married. You know,
Before they got annoying?
Yeah, I think that, the writers ran out of things to do, so they tried to create all sorts of, like, unnecessary drama, and really, especially the character of Pam, like, really kind of shifted her, like, entire personality in it. And, they stayed together, they ended the show, but they ended the show strong, like, thinking back to what they were at the beginning with all the flashbacks and all the memories. So it's one of those things that, like, I absolutely, absolutely loved the friendship between them. And, the entire season 2 of The Office, I could watch on repeat all the time and just kind of watch them have those moments. And I mean, that because that's, you'll pretty much just, you'll call me, it's like, it's casino night, it's the booze cruise, it's all the ones where they've had those, like, moments. And so I was thrilled when they got together. I did like them at the beginning of their relationship. I thought they were very cute and still kept that, like, playful friendship that they had going on. But then, like, once they got married, it did get a little bit annoying. Admittedly, that's also about when I stopped watching the show and more saw it in bits and pieces. So in my mind, it ends when they found out she was pregnant. That was, like, the perfect climax for their relationship.
All right, so my final one is from TV. And it's Red and Kitty Foreman.
Oh my God.
Now, I've always loved the character of Red. He's obviously playing this comedic hard ass, etc. And so much of his persona and what makes his character funny is wrapped up in that. But one of the things that I really like about the character is deep down he's a softie for family. And at the center of all of that, Kitty is the apple of his eye. And, he's completely smitten by her. And he's deep down a romantic. And Kitty, for her, as far as Kitty goes, she is very much, she may come off on the surface as someone who, if you're someone who watched the show in passing, as kind of a simple character, who's there for some laughs and everything, but she's really, really witty and really spunky, and and there are plenty of times where she's keeping Red in check. One of my favorite episodes is one where Red is trying to get Eric to pull off a prank, and the whole thing just keeps escalating, and she keeps telling them it's just going to keep escalating, something's going to go wrong, and then she ends up tricking them into thinking that she got hurt by their prank. And then as soon as they apologize and it all stops, she's like, okay, now that that's done. And it's just so those two just have a great dynamic. And at the very core of, like, there's the hard exterior, but then there's the gooey nougaty center for Red, and really at the heart of that is Kitty.
That's I don't want to say you're diving deep for that one, but I would not have, like, thought in that direction, because you don't, especially thinking couples on long-standing TV shows, you don't think the parents.
Right.
It's the, like, more of the, not even the main characters, because Red and Kitty were important characters, but they weren't, they weren't the kids that it was featured on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that one's a little more obscure for sure. My third one is gonna, it's just my super cheesy, Lucas and Peyton from One Tree Hill. And I mean, I forever love them. I loved them from the very first episode of One Tree Hill. Clearly I'm showing exactly how old I am, because that was the defining TV show for my young adulthood. But they really are a story of just two people who connect, and they can connect in good times and bad times, and he was always there to support her. He always went to her to a fault sometimes, ignoring other people that he maybe should be thinking about, but he was always there to support her. And she always believed in him. And maybe it was, as I've gotten older, maybe it was a little bit of an unrealistic relationship, but I do think that, there's a lot to be said about just having someone who is there for you to support you, whether they're in a relationship with you or whether they're friends with you. And so they were that for each other.
Who would have thought that a teenage soap opera would have unrealistic relationships in it?
I mean, to be fair, theirs was more realistic than some. They didn't get married as juniors in high school.
Okay, I've never seen the show, so I can't really comment on this.
I mean, I love Nathan and Haley too, but Lucas and Peyton, they are my ultimate. This is, what I used to aspire to be, and then again grew up and realized that it's not totally realistic. But I think I can still sort of look at it and say, wow, take the good qualities from that and have carried it through into life.
You've been able to apply lessons from One Tree Hill to your life with me. Now that, I feel like that deserves a deep dive.
We'll save that one for another day. I'll have to do a rewatch of the show before I do that. But there are a lot of good things you can learn from One Tree Hill if you take it with a grain of salt and realize that it's fiction.
I do not endorse this. Do not take your advice, your relationship advice from any television show. That's a PSA. Regardless of the show, do not take your relationship advice from a television show.
And I'm staring at him now with my jaw dropped, because that's pretty much what my entire life is it's looking at TV couples and saying, oh, that's just like me. Oh, that's just like me. Because I find that one little piece that I can connect to.
Well, it's different relating to something and, taking advice. Those are two very different things.
Well, we'll just end it with that before you make fun of me even more.
I'm not making... Anyway. So I know that this was something that you had thought long and hard about. Were there any honorable mentions for you? Any couples that you thought of, but they didn't make the cut?
Honestly, yes, but I don't know if I want to be made fun of anymore.
I won't. I promise this will be a joke-free zone.
No, I think the other one that I was sort of again, that kind of was in the back of my head, and I think for this, it really is because, I said Corey and Topanga were the first couple that really stood out, but it goes back further than that, and I was younger than that when I first watched Saved by the Bell, and Zach Morris and Kelly Kapowski were who 8-year-old Eileen and no, I was probably 10 and Mary Kate was probably 8, and we just aspired to be that. So stand the test of time? No, they couldn't do that. But when I think of especially we were thinking, or in my head, I was thinking TV. So when I was like, they were one of the first ones that popped to my mind and was like, oh, Zach and Kelly for sure. Then I said, they don't necessarily stand the test of time, and I can't tell you the last time I saw it, but my guess is I would not feel the same way as I did as like a 10-year-old watching the show.
So here's a question, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, so I apologize for that. Now, knowing that I was thinking beyond TV, are there any movie couples that like just come to mind?
No.
No, like that's shocking to me, because I thought that Ariel and Eric would have been tops on your list.
No.
No.
No, it's my favorite movie. I absolutely love the movie, but there are a million, well, maybe not a million, but there are definitely couples that have a stronger foundation than Ariel and Eric.
Fair enough.
No, I mean, I love them, and, they lived happily ever after. But when I'm looking at relationships, honestly, if we're thinking Disney movie, the first one that would pop to my head would be like Beauty and the Beast, because they kind of got to know each other, and so they had a relationship based on common interest versus watching him on a ship, saving him, and him hearing her voice. That's the foundation for true love right there. So.
Well, I certainly appreciate that very objective look at it, because I figured it being your favorite movie, that would be, right off the bat. So, awesome.
I mean, one of my top movie moments is when she walks out of the dress to him in that or out of the ocean to him in that sparkly blue dress. And, that's one of the first times they really, well, they're both humans there and they can both communicate. But, that's one of my top movie moments ever. But, yeah, no, when we look at them as the foundation of a couple, clearly they lived happily ever after, so they got to know each other better over time. But it definitely, might have been more of a relationship that started based on curiosity and attraction.
Alrighty.
Donald, wake up! It's showtime! Don't forget the orchestra.
Ah, there you are. And just in time.
Mom says there's even more magical stuff now.
For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the doors.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness. And here we go!
Well, now we are going to be moving on. This week's segment of Maza's Mickey Minute is going to be much longer than a minute. We are going to dive into the magic Mickey ears and pick some topics that we're going to talk about that are Disney, and most specifically Disney parks and Disney World related. We are picking them out of the Stitch ears today in honor of 626.
Stitch Day.
So would you like to do the honors with the first topic for this podcast?
I can go first for that. It looks like there might be some more papers in there than the last time I saw these.
Yes. She knows that because they're different colors, because Megan has been stealing the ones that were all the same colors.
Shh. It's summer vacation. Whatever makes her happy. Oh. If they built a fifth park at Walt Disney World, what should it be?
So, I know that Disney doesn't want to necessarily duplicate things from one place to another. but I feel like something more dedicated to Pixar would be really cool. You see Pixar kind of like, in different places. There's the Toy Story Land at Hollywood Studios. And you see Pixar a few other places throughout the parks. But like at Disneyland, there's like a whole Pixar thing, and it's dedicated to that. And I think that sometimes it feels like at Walt Disney World, the Pixar stuff is a little bit shoehorned in wherever they can fit it. So having something that would be more dedicated to Pixar, I think would be very cool. But they probably don't want to do something like that because they have that at Disneyland.
Well, and also, I totally agree with you, and I'm glad you said that because I was stumped on this one, and I think I'm going to just piggyback, and I would love a Pixar park. But then you're going to have people who may not be Pixar fans who will avoid that park. And this way you have, if you are a Pixar fan, now you've got to go to pretty much all the parks to be able to experience it. So I know you said they won't do it because they don't want to duplicate something, but I think the way they have it now also does kind of cause you to have to go to the different parks. So then you're buying tickets for the different parks. Whereas if you're a Pixar fan and you just want to focus on like Pixar, you only have to buy a one-day ticket to one park versus seeing it at all the parks.
No, fair enough. That's a good observation. I mean, I'm just thinking, I've heard some people who went to Universal recently, and they've spread the Harry Potter stuff over like 3 parks. So you have to buy, if you want to experience all the Harry Potter stuff, you have to buy a ticket to all 3 parks. So, it's kind of a similar kind of idea.
Yeah. But no, I think that would be fun, and I definitely think they could capitalize and create some really fun rides and attractions if they had a brand new Pixar park.
So if you guys are hearing a little bit of noise in the background, just for some context here, we are experiencing a thunderstorm as we're recording this, and we are actually fortunate to have the dog who is not at all fazed by thunderstorms, so you may actually hear a little bit of his snoring in the background on top of everything else. So just a little bit of context there in case you're like, what is that in the background today? All right, let's see. Okay, well, this one is kind of... we can do it if you want, but it's going to be kind of irrelevant in a little bit of time. True or false? Genie Plus is a must-have.
So I guess for the current version that it is right now, I would say for our family on a family vacation, it's true because we need it for Megan. I think she would really struggle to stand in line and get to do the rides that she wants to do and that we want to do. You and I would say it's not a necessity, but we also can be more patient.
Sure. Just for a little bit of context for everybody, if you're listening to this, you're probably a Disney enthusiast and you've heard this anyway, but just so everybody's on the same page, Disney recently, in the past like 48 hours, announced that they were going to be changing up the Lightning Lane procedure and everything, and they're doing away with the name Genie Plus. It's going to be Lightning Lane Multipass, and you can still do Lightning Lanes in another form, and it's going to be similar to what they have now. And I forget off the top of my head what they're calling that. But they're switching up the service, and basically on top of everything else, without getting into the nitty gritty, you're going to be able to book what used to be fast passes and now are lightning lanes in advance, much like the old Fast Pass Plus system was. Fast Pass Plus, blah blah blah. Hard to say, which may be one of the reasons why they changed the name. But anyway, so they're going back to something that people liked, and something that we liked, which was being able to book some experiences and rides. I think it's pretty much, looking at the list, it's pretty much rides. Like I didn't see any character meet and greets on these lists for this new system. And it's possible to add that and stuff.
Add that.
But anyway.
But with Genie Plus, you can book the characters.
And I really liked that. So looking forward, like looking towards our next trip, this is something that I actually like even a little bit more, because we are those people, we've told people time and time again, don't overplan. But this helps create kind of like a little bit of structure. You know that you're going to be here at this point on this day, and then going here at this point, etc. And then it makes it easier to kind of fill in the gaps if you are that kind of person who likes to plan like that. I know plenty of people who are the opposite. They like to wing it and everything like that. I suppose you could still do that, but it's a little bit more difficult to wing it when there are other people who are planning things in advance and booking those opportunities in advance. So I would agree, generally it's not necessary, but I think it just makes it so much, honestly, we have a lot less anxiety if it's planned a little bit more, so for us, I think that it's really not essential, but it's something that is very useful to us.
And if you have it, and again, with the new system, we'll see how it works and everything like that. I'm sure there'll be trial and error. But obviously, if you're not waiting in line for an hour and a half, you can do more.
Right.
And you're not standing in line being bored, or standing on your phones, or standing on your whatever, listening to kids complain that they're waiting and everything like that. So it just makes for, I think, a more enjoyable experience.
Alrighty, next question.
Best character dining experience.
Well, I think that the best character dining experience that I've had, like in terms of like saying, oh, you've got to do this sometime, is probably Artist Point at Wilderness Lodge. Totally because of the Evil Queen. I mean, she was just great. She totally stole the show. I mean, Megan was flat out, like, when we went to take the picture at the end of the meal, you get a chance to take a picture with the Evil Queen and everything. And Megan was as far away from the Evil Queen as possible while still being in the picture.
And you couldn't break her.
Yeah. Yeah. She,
not that I really tried to break her, but she did not break character. At all. And the witty
comebacks, she had an answer for for everything that you threw at her. So, I think that is as far as character experiences that I'm like, that was great. That's one that I think was the most memorable because of the Evil Queen, so I guess that's where I'm going with that.
And it's really pretty inside there. It's a nice little atmosphere.
Yes. And the food was good too. There are other places that we've gone multiple times because we like the experiences there. So I could have gone with one of those as well. But the Evil Queen kind of stands alone as the best character that I've seen at a character dining experience.
I think Right now, the one that's standing out to me is Brunch at Topolino's with artist Mickey and friends. And we've done that twice in the last year and a half. And one, brunch is less expensive than dinner. It's a beautiful restaurant in there. The food is great. I mean, anything that we've had, we've tried a few of the different meals there, and it's all delicious. But I think those characters are a lot of fun, especially, I mean, the outfits that they are wearing there are very unique. But I also like how they come out and, you know, they do their little song. In every so often they'll come out and they'll do their little song. They'll dance around the restaurant. But I just think that's fun to watch too. I mean, like, what sticks out in my head is like Daisy getting really mad because Donald kept running off. And so, you know, they're putting on the show, obviously, but also making it, you know, very enjoyable. And I think when that happened, it was just you and I
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there laughing because we're like, you know, two adults there. And I can totally picture like Chris going off, and maybe more the other way, me going off and doing something and you like being like, come on, let's go.
I guess it depends on what
we are and what we're doing. But I could just be like, I'm like, oh yeah, that's real life.
Yeah.
But they're ducks.
And for a little bit of context for those who haven't been there, when she's referring to the unique costuming, the characters there are artists on the Riviera. So Mickey's a painter, Donald's a sculptor, Minnie is a writer.
I love her dress.
Yes, her dress is really great. It's got different...
It's like newsprint.
I don't think it's newsprint.
Journal
it's
pages
yeah,
or something?
And it's got different calligraphy and stuff on it. It's really, really cool. And Daisy is a dancer. Yeah. So they kind of cover the arts on top of everything else. So, yes, they're very unique to that experience. So.
All right, you're up.
All right, I'm up. Closing my eyes because there are two different colored papers now, so. Oh. Okay, which Disney, and this is in quotes, do you most want to visit? And I'm guessing this is Disney parks?
Yeah, I would imagine.
It's in your handwriting, so.
I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember making, I'm sure, I mean, it is my handwriting, but I don't remember making the question. But that would make sense because, you know, there's a bunch of different Disney parks.
So, do you want to go first?
No, you can go first unless...
So, this is hard because I've always loved the look of the Disneyland Paris castle. So I've always wanted to go there, but I feel like I have to go to Disneyland. It being the original, it being, you know, that was Walt's baby. That was, you know, what he created. He walked those streets. And, you know, just, I think that there's something, if you're a Disney fan and you have the opportunity, you have to take it to see that and experience that. I know that there have been a lot of changes since that. But I think that it's just something that I've heard so much about. One of my sisters says that she'll pick Disneyland over Disney World every time. So I feel like it's just it's somewhere that I've got to get to.
I think I for sure would agree Disneyland is probably number one. If we're going out of the country, I think Shanghai is one that looked really cool. Like, I remember watching a bunch of like the shows where they were talking about like the stuff they were doing to create it.
Yeah.
And I am sorry, I can't pinpoint like anything from it right now, but I remember watching it and saying that it looked really cool, like very modern, but still looked like it had that Disney feel to it. But more realistically, Disneyland is probably where I would go, because aside from going to Disney, I'm not sure I have a huge desire to go to Shanghai.
Sure. We have a friend who
Tokyo, right?
yeah, who loves Tokyo Disney. I don't know if that's the actual name. Is it called Tokyo Disney? I don't know. But he's also a big fan of Japanese culture. So there's also, he'll go to Japan to experience Japan and make Disney part of that experience. He'll go there. I think that he said that it's the most beautiful Disney park that he's been to.
Yeah. And if we're talking about a whole experience, I think I would want to go to Disneyland, but like spend time out there and see more of California too, if we're going to talk about that.
Sure, fair enough.
All right. I think it's my turn. Favorite country at Epcot?
Favorite country at Epcot? I think with the addition of Ratatouille, it's France. France, Ratatouille it's a great ride. With that, they also kind of expanded the France Pavilion a little bit. I having been to France, I'm a little bit maybe biased, but I think that I guess I can't really put into words why I prefer France so much, but I think that it's very aesthetically pleasing. It has a great ride. When we have been there around Flower and Garden, there's the great topiary of Beauty and the Beast there, and with the
It
the
wasn't
fountain.
there last time. It wasn't. I was sad. But
And I feel like I found a new appreciation on the last trip that we went on, when it was really, really hot, for frozen rosés.
I was going to mention the frosé if you didn't.
So we haven't tried any of like the restaurants or anything at the pavilion. We did get stuck in the rain once, and we did a wine tasting.
That was in France too, wasn't it?
That was in France.
Yeah.
Yep. So, there's a lot of different things that you can do in France as well, as opposed to just like walk over, take a picture, and move on. So yeah, France for me.
And that's where Bella's in her blue dress, right? When you can
Across
catch her.
the way,
Yeah.
over by the lagoon. Yes. Yep.
I think I'm just gonna go with Mexico because of the more sentimental reason. It's always very crowded, but like that's the first country I go to. I get my margarita. I take my picture with Donald. The pyramid's really cool to walk around, and I'm all for the sentimental. Like that's the first country I go to, and it just that's the one that sticks out most in my head. There's a lot of really cool ones. I feel like the last time, or like last year when you and I were there, I feel like we explored Morocco for the first time. And that was really pretty. Like we usually just kind of have been, that's a walkthrough one.
You're right.
Where we get the Kid Cot
Yep.
stamp or get the Kid Cot postcard and then move on. But we kind of were looking for some spaces to take a little break, and we found some really pretty spots back there. But
Now, was that on our trip, or was that on the one? Because I know that the last time we went to Epcot with Megan, the Kid Cot area had, like you could do some coloring there too. So I feel like we took a break there so that she was coloring, and then like I
And
kind
then
of
we
like,
found it? Okay.
I walked through a doorway and was just like, oh, this is here.
Yeah, so maybe it was with her.
And then we went there again. I think that's how it went. Now you're the one with the better memory than me, but
I just more remember like we had never explored it before. Because I think we're people that if we're not stopping for a drink or if we're the photo ops in Morocco are like right kind of along that main stretch under the arch or whatever that type of building is. So we kind of just it's been a walkthrough, but it's really pretty to go back and check it out. Not saying that it's my favorite, but that one popped into my head as one that, we'll say an honorable mention because I had never really explored it before.
I also have to give an honorable mention to Germany, because getting a beer and a pretzel in Germany is just, it's a must-do for us. And, it's interesting because there was one time when we were talking with a cast member and somebody else was there as well. And somebody asked, well, is this, authentic to Germany? And they said, well, it's authentic to Bavaria. And that's what everybody thinks of when they think of Germany. And they kind of explain that there are so many different parts of Germany and regions that, that have different, cultural aspects of their own. So it was, and you'll find that at all of the parks as cast members are from the countries that really cool. So, that's always something that every time that I've seen it since, I'm like, I remember that exchange and that experience, and that I learned a little something about a country that I've never been to. Alrighty. Okay. What's one Disney movie you wish they made into a ride?
Oh, man.
Do you want me to go first? Because I've got one.
Okay, but don't take mine. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't think I'll be taking yours. So, and there's a little bit of a backstory here. There used to be a ride, and I believe it was at Epcot. And it was more of a show than a ride. But basically it was, and I can't remember the name of it. But it was basically, you were navigating like an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old boy's world, and there was a person there who was like controlling the boy and everything like that, and it's this audio animatronic and everything like that. So you're actually experiencing all this through the boy's eyes. Like it was actually like the inside of the boy's head. And I was thinking some kind of inside out attraction that took that kind of concept would be really, really fun. I don't know if it would be so much of a ride as like an attraction, a show kind of thing. But there could certainly be like ride-like elements to it, like with it moving around and things like that. I wish I could remember the name of that attraction, but I can't off the top of my head. But that would be something that I thought would be really cool. It's taking an old concept, a more original concept to Epcot. I think that it was there during my first trip and then was gone by the time I went back. So we're talking I was 8 or something like that. So you could take these new characters, because on top of everything else, one of the things that Bob Iger said recently is when they put new things into the park, it's going to be IP. It's going to be things that Disney has created and then applying them to the parks. They're not going to be creating new stories in the parks anymore. So that would be something that also follows that line of thinking as well.
Can I go with a TV show?
Sure.
It's Disney.
Yeah, we don't have any real rules here.
Okay.
So.
Well, and this is one that you and I used to talk about all the time. And I want them to, and it wouldn't even apply to us at this point because Megan is getting older. But I think they should take and make a puppy dog pals, like their clubhouse, their dog house, and make that an interactive thing. You know, it could be pretty large. I mean, the pups have a pretty large dog house out in their backyard. Very modernized, lots of stuff in it that they can play with it. And I think that would be like a really great like thing for like 6 and under or something like that. Over in that Disney Junior section, if we wanted at Epcot, I mean, there's not Epcot, at Hollywood. There's not a whole lot over there. There's some, you know, empty or partially, like there's space that they could put that over there if they wanted and kind of make that a little Disney Junior section.
They could take that entire launch bay area that is currently like meet and greets for characters. Yeah. They could move those meet and greets somewhere else.
To Galaxy's Edge or
like,
something.
I mean, honestly, you've got the old Star Cruiser space. You could move all of those character meet and greets into a revamped space there that's attached to Galaxy's Edge. And use that to make, you know, that area. Heck, you could even like, I mean, it would be like a you could make like, you know, a playscape, a play area for a kid. You could even
indoor, air conditioned, like a spot that you know, I think
you could even make it a little bit bigger and like even have like the backyards because Kia's got her own dog house, so it's her own thing and Kia's big thing is crafts. So then you could even have like, you know, if you've got a crafty kid, you can have a kid make a craft or something like that. So we could get really into the weeds. Yeah, I was going to say,
I know you and I used to talk about that like when she was younger and would watch that show regularly, and I really think that, you know, we talked and be like, this would be a great thing for them to do for the younger kids to kind of, especially younger kids, sometimes just need that like go time, like where they can run around and play, and that could be a spot for that. So
my turn?
Nope, it's my turn.
Uh-oh. She grabbed 2 there. She's trying to cheat.
Ooh. If you could rent a section of a Disney park for a party, which would it be? The castle.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what party it would be. I mean, obviously there's no rides in the castle, but how cool would it be to say that you are throwing a party inside the castle?
Oh, you're talking inside the castle.
Like the castle.
See, I'm thinking the hub in front of the castle.
Oh, I want the whole thing. It's mine. Like, like the hub in front and the castle.
Okay.
That's where the party is. So you can go outside, you can go inside. But, I mean, you just say you're throwing a party at the castle. How?
Yeah.
That's it. There's probably a lot of other places in the park that would be more exciting and have more to do. But let's face it. You say to someone, oh, come to my party at Cinderella's castle.
Yeah.
That's...
So I would agree with the castle. Like the hub in front of the castle is really what I was thinking, because, you know, on top of everything else, we didn't say what else you could have there. So, you know, if you're going to have some of the food carts from like around the park there as well, like heck, if they
could all move into the hub.
Exactly. So, but because you took that, I'm going to pick something else, and I'm going to say that it's the aquarium at the seas at Epcot. I think that would be a cool place, a fun place to have a party.
I thought you would rent out Galaxy's Edge.
You know, that was a thought too, but
you can't say Galaxy's Edge for everything.
Right, exactly. I'm trying to, you know, to make things, and I do think that would be really cool, because on top of everything else, there's so many different things to see at the aquarium, and you can look at a tank at one point and then look at it again 5 minutes later, and something totally different could be happening in that tank.
Yeah.
So just having, and also just the idea of having something like living around you is kind of cool. So
Cool.
all right, so do we want to do
I started, so you take one more.
one more? Okay, this is the last one of the evening for this Maza's Mickey minutes. Many minutes. Okay, this is another Epcot question. If you were to add a country to the World Showcase, what would it be? So do you want me to go? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I am thinking about something African. And I'm thinking that on top of everything else because I'm going with the whole applying IP concept to it. And basically you can take theming from The Lion King and apply it to a country in Africa. I'm thinking about like countries that specifically, like Swahili is part of the language and the culture, because Simba in and of itself, the name is Swahili. So you're looking at like a country like looking at a country like Kenya or Tanzania. And I only know of Tanzania because I knew somebody in college who was from Tanzania. And it's fun to say Tanzania. That's also where Mount Kilimanjaro is. So on top of everything else, you could have something with Kilimanjaro in the distance. So that would be something that's a little bit different and everything like that. So it would be something a little unique to what they have currently. Because they've got some Asian countries. They've got plenty of European countries.
Yeah, I think I was going to go with maybe like Colombia. Mm. And then you can bring in Encanto.
Yeah.
And then again, I was just over on the side trying to think. But again, bringing in like the South American countries where there is lacking of representation of that as well. But again, as you're saying, bringing in what they already have, they for sure could do some things. You don't necessarily have to throw Encanto in someone's face.
Sure.
But, it's obviously a pretty popular movie, and they could definitely do some theming that could tie that in as well.
Alrighty. Well, that will do it for this Maza's Mickey Minute. Many minutes. But, Eileen, what doesn't take very many minutes?
I don't know.
Well, that's booking your trip with We Do Travel Right. Of course, We Do Travel Right is an authorized Disney vacation planner, and they're Eileen's looking at me like I'm crazy. But you know what a great job that We Do Travel Right does.
Oh, absolutely. We didn't have to do anything.
Well,
except say what we wanted.
Exactly. On top of everything else, they have the We Do Travel Right dining team, which took care of all of our dining reservations and really just provides a concierge level planning experience so that you can focus on having fun on your vacation and not stressing about all of the things that go into, okay, well, I've got to get this reservation and I've got to make sure that I've got this taken care of. They kind of take care of all that stuff for you. So on top of everything else, if you've already booked a trip recently, like we did, I booked the trip myself.
That's right.
Because I didn't know the dates. You can transfer the trip to We Do Travel Right, and then they'll take over and do the rest for you. So if you have the hankering for a Disney vacation after listening to everything that we just said, you can log on to wedotravelright.com/Maza. That's wedotravelright.com/MAZA to get your free vacation quote. Oh, and the quote's not just free. Everything is free.
Well, not the trip that you pay for.
Well, no.
But all of their
services are free because companies like Disney already build the cost of an agent into their prices. So you're paying for the agent whether you use an agent or not. So it seems like a no-brainer to use the agent. And of course, even if you're not going to Disney, they'll help you with trips to Universal Studios, to all-inclusive vacations. Emily and her team are currently on a trip to Sandals, Jamaica, where they're learning all about that and becoming experts in that. And they also help you with cruises. So whatever your heart desires, really, they're going to be able to find find an expert for you. So again, if you're interested in a vacation, it's wedotravelright.com/Maza and log in and get your quote so you can start your magical vacation today.
I really think your talking about it was longer than it would take to fill out a quote form.
Absolutely.
Well, I can't do any more damage around this popsicle stand.
So long, partner.
See you real soon.
All right, so the last thing that we are going to talk about today, I kind of sprung this on Eileen last minute, and I'll kind of explain a little bit. So Eileen and I, when we first got together, Disney was not a mutual, I don't want to say obsession, but it wasn't a mutual interest the way that it is now for us. But one of the things that we did have a mutual interest of and connected over was our love of sports, and especially Boston and New England sports. So while I was getting some things together for our anniversary, which on top of everything else, I made her a collage of photos from our wedding and then the
one from
each year since then. I came across a photo of us at the one and only Patriots game that we've ever been to. And it was in 2013. And it was the last time that we thought we might get to see Tom Brady play football.
There was some talk that, he might not have played football quite as long as he did.
Yes.
And so we said, we've got to see him.
And so we went to this game. It was week 17 against Buffalo. It was pouring rain, and
it was amazing.
It was a great experience. It was so much fun. But I was thinking about that and reminiscing about that experience. And then I started thinking about how Tom Brady had just been inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. I'd say that at this point, I've probably watched all of the ceremony. I didn't watch it all live. It was more than 3 hours long. Maybe that makes me a bad fan, but there's only so much I can take of people sitting on a couch telling Tom Brady how great he is.
I mean, he's pretty great, though.
He is. And of course, the backdrop of all of this now is the Boston Celtics won another championship. And so we've been together on top of everything else through a number of championships. And
We've
of course,
seen each of the major sports teams win a championship since we've been together.
Yeah. And
some multiple.
And I mean, just given our age, we've really been had the best conscious memory of the complete run of championships that Boston sports and New England sports have had lately. So anyway, that's kind of the backdrop of this whole thing. And I started thinking about it, and I decided that I was going to ask Eileen a couple of questions related to this. So the questions were, first, Tom Brady related. What is your favorite Tom Brady moment? So we'll start with that one.
And the pressure was really on. And I don't know if I can pick one Tom Brady moment. But I'm going to pick his first Super Bowl victory, because that just started the definition of his career. Was it his best football game ever? No. Was it, were there mistakes made? Yes. But did he do what he needed to when the game was on the line? Yes, he did. And did he continue to do that for the next 20 years? Most of the time, yes. And I mean, he was always, and again, I know that there were some things about that game that, might be overlooked for sure. But they needed him to take that team to get them into field goal range. And he did that. And I mean, I think that I don't know what would have happened if they had not won that Super Bowl. Would he have become the Tom Brady that he is today? Maybe he would have. Maybe he wouldn't have. But he got that reputation and he kind of stuck it as he was going to, if you were behind, he was going to take you down that field and you were going to win the game. If you needed a game winner, he was going to find a way to make it happen. And obviously, again, he couldn't do that every single game of his career. But I don't think there are very, very few occasions that he had the ball and you didn't have confidence in him. And no one expected him to win that football game. No one did. And I was a sophomore in high school then. And I just remember, the day Bledsoe went down, I fell in love with Tom Brady. I was a 15-year-old girl who saw him go on the screen for the first time. And I'm like, oh my God, I love him. I was at my friend's house and, her mom was saying, oh no, there goes the season. The season's ruined. I got home to my house, same thing. Oh, what are we going to do without Bledsoe? And I very confidently was like, I don't know. I like Tom Brady. And, by the end of that season, everyone else liked Tom Brady too. But again, just the awe and the, he was a baby winning the Super Bowl. And I use that term baby very loosely. I look at myself when I was 22 now and what was he, 23, 25, whatever. I look at myself 10 years ago and say, oh my gosh, I was a baby then. But looking at him, he looked so young and so happy and so thrilled. And that really started his amazing career where I look and say, I have so many Tom Brady moments.
I think probably the best part of the actual drive itself is the entire time when they're starting that drive, John Madden is talking about what a bad idea this is. And, they should just go for overtime and, and try to settle it there. My moment, you went much, much broader than me. For me, there was one moment that, was the spark of greatness moment. Was at the end of that drive, he completed a short pass to, I think it was to Jermaine Wiggins to get them into field goal range. He snaps the ball, spikes it, and the ball goes straight up in the air, and he catches it with his hand, and he just holds it out in the air like that, and like this game is over. And that was the moment that I was just that was the beginning of the Tom Brady moment. That was one of those times where everybody's talked about, since the day he walked in the building, he had a swagger about him, that he had a confidence about him. That was the first, real public showing of that. That was just this is over, guys. Pack your bags. We're about to go celebrate.
But how many other times, I mean, maybe not with the spike in the ball, but how many other times in his career did you just knew he was going to win the game?
Well, I guess it's a little different because the game was won at that point. As soon as he did that, you knew the game was won. You know, it didn't matter. That could have been a 60-yard kick in the like. But it was just like that. You know, he had such confidence in that was over. I mean, he had just witnessed Vinatieri kick one in the snow, you know, from the same distance, basically. You know, so I'm sure he had no
doubt
question
that he was going to make that kick.
You know, so that was more like that was the exclamation point. It wasn't the this drive is beginning. I feel like I've got Tom Brady. I've got a chance. That was the boom. We're done here. And
give me the trophy.
Like, so that was, you know, to me, that's one of those moments that always sticks out to me. That was the moment that it was just like the Tom Brady has arrived, you know? So that's the moment for me.
Unlike me when he came on the field for the first time and everyone said
like,
he was awful
cute.
and I thought he was cute. And
and at that point he was, you know, this fat-faced, you know, young kid with terrible hair, and
he was totally.
The hair got worse too before it got better.
Yeah, he had some interesting hairdos, but you know what? When you're Tom Brady, you can experiment, and as long as you can throw a football and run really awkwardly, we'll let it happen.
Do not criticize the Clydesdales running.
He's had some great runs.
All right, so the second question is, and we talked a little bit about this in the beginning, about how we've experienced a lot of championships. What is your favorite Boston or New England sports championship?
2004 Red Sox. 100% hands down. Like, that's a no-brainer. You know, the Patriots had already won. They had won a couple. But, I mean, we watched, the Red Sox were on in my house every night. I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. Apparently, I was 6 months old in 1986, and apparently I started crying when they lost that series. That's the story I've been told. But
well, Megan was days old, and she started crying when the Patriots lost to the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Luckily, she got to see them win the following year.
Yes, yeah.
But hands down, like, I remember that so vividly. I was in Boston. I was at Boston College when it happened, and we were all together in the common room of a friend's dorm, and, like, everyone is cheering. Everyone's, like, jumping up and down. It was amazing, and I just, like, sat there. And a couple other of us who, like, were true, like, diehard Boston fans, like, weren't celebrating. It was more just, like, sitting there, like, in just absolute awe and disbelief. And then I got up and I walked outside the building and I called my father. And, like, it was just, like, they did it. Bye. Like, it was the simplest, but it was just that, like, wow, that just happened. And then once I had talked to once I had made that connection at home, then I went back in and the celebrating happened. But I don't think I waited as long as I did. And, you know, obviously I only waited 18 years of my life. But the stories went on, and your grandparents, your parents, they told you all about all the waiting. So it was just such a big win. And that one, hands down, that was my favorite. And then we went to the parade a couple days later.
Yeah, I would have to agree. So I'm going to say the best, like, singular game that I ever saw, championship game, was the Malcolm Butler Super Bowl, because that was just two teams, like, that was like two heavyweights that were just standing in the middle of the ring, just taking swings at each other. And it came down to, and it was just like there was the whole curse catch where that was Malcolm Butler who batted the ball up in the air, and it looked like it was a great play, and then it landed in the guy's stomach when he was laying on the ground, and then it felt like it was David Tyree all over again. So in that, it was like you went from this sense of of dejectedness to just glee. All like you experience the range of emotions in a matter of a minute. But in terms of what a championship meant to me, it's by far the 2004 Red Sox. I am not nearly as superstitious as I once was, but I was living at my mom's at the time, and we watched every game. My mother was there, my friend Andy at the time, and my mother had this L-shaped sectional couch, and we all had to sit in a specific spot for every game. And I just remember, on top of everything else, the year before was such a devastating loss to the Yankees in the ALCS. With that one, I was upset for a month after that. It was awful. I was emotionally damaged after that. Leaving Grady Little, leaving Pedro in was just like the most infuriating thing ever. And basically that cost Grady Little his professional managing reputation. But it was the 2004 Red Sox was so cathartic because it was something that was not only something that we experienced, but it was something that our parents had longed for. It's something that our grandparents and even our great grandparents, depending on where they were in life at that point, probably longed for. So this was a generational thing. We were really known as, and I guess to a certain extent, embraced like the losers role,
But the losers where you always had just enough hope that you'd get your heart broken when they lose.
It's the Michael Scott thing. I'm ready to be hurt again, So, and it really did. It more than the Patriots Super Bowl like really changed the culture and the expectation. It was just like this was the one mountain that we could never climb, and with all of the history and all of the heartbreak that had come before it, it really did. It changed the region in the way that they looked at sports.
Well, on top of it, then they had two teams that were winning championships, and it wasn't long before they had a third and then a fourth. But
yeah,
it went from, okay, the Patriots are a good team to, okay, now you have the Patriots the Patriots just won, then the Red Sox won, then the Patriots won again. So then you've got two teams. And a few years later, the Celtics won. And then a few years later, the Bruins won. And then, you want them to win every year.
Winning became an expectation, not a hope. Yeah, people may say, oh, well, you're spoiled. You're complaining that you're not winning championships all the time. And it's amazing. I still firmly believe that it was the Red Sox that changed that perception. Because, the Patriots won. They were a complete underdog. They could have just gone completely downhill the next year, and it could have just been a complete flash in the pan. And everybody would have been happy that they won, but then, they could have been nothing the next year.
And they sort of were the next year. But then they came back
they still won 9 games. They weren't nothing. They ended up missing the playoffs.
But then they came back and won 2 more, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So It's just for what it meant to so many people, what it meant to me, what it meant to my family. It was so much more than a baseball game. It was a galvanizing thing for an entire region.
Yeah.
So, well, with that, we have gone way long, and I'm sure that we could talk a lot more about this, but on top of everything else, Megan's going to be up at 6:30 tomorrow morning, and Eileen being a teacher, she is on full-time Megan duty this summer. and that in and of itself, God bless you. It's one of the things that makes her the greatest woman in the world, and why I feel so lucky to have married her, among so many other things. And I hope she realizes just how much I care, how much I love her, how much I appreciate her. I love you.
I love you.
Well, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Inspired me truly, it did from the start, to not be afraid and to follow my heart. There's a piece of you with me that can tear apart forever. At times we may fall like we all tend to do. Your strength is a power that carried me through forever. Forever I'll find you, forever I'll wait. Forever your power and strength stays with me. Forever I'll find you, forever I'll wait. Forever your power and strength stays with me. Forever I'll find you, forever I'll wait. Forever your power and strength stays with me. Forever. Forever.
Well, that just about does it for this episode of the Maza's Musings podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you had as much fun listening as we had putting this one together. If anybody is wondering, the music that is playing at the beginning and the end of this podcast, that's Forever by the Dropkick Murphys, which was our wedding song. Actually, my best man and cousin Zach performed that song live for our first dance at our wedding. So on top of everything else, there's a very special connection there with some family. Once again, thank you for listening. And once again, please help us grow by sharing our social media, letting people know that you're listening to a great podcast, and giving us positive reviews and ratings. All of those things help us reach more people and share the fun. And that's really what this podcast is all about, is having some fun. So the more people that we have connected with us, the more opportunities we have. On top of everything else, connecting with more people allows us to do different things with our content. And I think that next week you're going to be very excited, because I'm very excited, because I did a collaboration with some other podcasters and people who are involved with other aspects of Disney for a special episode on Run Disney. So we will have that for you next week. Be looking out for that one. I know I just kind of spoiled the surprise, though I guess it really wasn't a surprise. But anyway, be on the lookout for that one. And in the meantime, feel free to interact with us on social media. Reach out to me directly at mazasmusings@gmail.com. You can also reach out to me on the socials, or by going to Mazas Musings podcast.wordpress.com. With all of that said, I hope that everybody has a great weekend, a great week, and a happy 4th of July.